Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something right now. What does it take to walk away from everything the world told you was success? What kind of strength does it take to question the very system that gave you fame, applause, wealth, and validation? You see, most people get lost in that spotlight. They chase Oscars, headlines, red carpets. But one woman, Angelina Jolie, chose something greater. She chose the light that doesn't blind but guides. She didn't just change her life, she transformed her soul. Now you might be wondering, why would a woman who had it all, the global fame, the power, the influence, turn toward Islam? Because deep down she was searching for something real, something this world could never offer her: peace. Not the peace you get from yoga retreats or luxury getaways. I'm talking about that soul-level peace, that unshakable inner calm, and she found it. Let me tell you something right now. This journey wasn't easy for her. The moment she embraced Islam, the world started whispering, shouting, criticizing, questioning. But she stood tall, not because she was fearless, but because she was finally rooted in truth. Angelina didn't become smaller when she accepted Islam. She became bigger than ever. Not in the Hollywood sense, but in the divine sense. Because the moment she said, La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, she stepped into her true power. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what real transformation looks like. She went from serving the industry to serving humanity, from red carpets to refugee camps, from brokenness to belief, from acting roles to authentic reality. Islam didn't restrict her, it freed her. It didn't silence her, it gave her a voice with purpose. It didn't ask her to lose herself. It helped her finally find herself. And isn't that what we're all looking for? Some of you right now, you're feeling lost. You've got everything they said would make you happy. Money, attention, status. And yet you're still empty. You wake up with anxiety. You go to bed with questions. You keep asking, is this all there is? Let me tell you, there is more. There is a path that leads to peace. A path that doesn't depend on likes, followers, or public opinion. A path that transforms you from the inside out. And if Angelina Jolie, one of the most powerful and admired women on the planet, and find the courage to walk that path, so can you, because when you choose truth, when you choose faith, when you choose Islam, you're not giving up anything. You're gaining everything: your soul, your purpose, your eternal life. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not about celebrity gossip. This is about awakening. This is about what happens when a human being chooses light over illusion, surrender over ego, faith over fear. Angelina Jolie didn't lose herself when she accepted Islam. She rose. And today, I want to leave you with one question. What are you holding onto that's stopping you from rising too? Because the greatest story is not that Angelina Jolie accepted Islam. The greatest story is that you can too. The truth is waiting, the peace is real, and your transformation, it starts now. True transformation begins when we stop performing for the world and start aligning with our soul. That's the moment everything changes, not on the outside, but within. Because we live in a world today that rewards performance more than truth. You get applause for the roles you play, the masks you wear, the personas you craft. But what happens when you go home, when you look into the mirror, and you don't recognize the person staring back at you? That's the cost of performance. And Angelina Jolie, a woman who knew more about that than most, spent years performing on screen and off. Until one day, she chose a different stage, the stage of authenticity. You see, when you're constantly living to please others, you eventually lose touch with who you are. You silence the voice within just to hear the cheers outside. But the soul never stops speaking. It whispers in the quiet moments. It shows up in the emptiness that fame can't fill. Angelina reached a point where the spotlight wasn't enough. The titles, the fame, the fashion, they weren't enough. Why? Because the soul was starving for something real, not applause, not trophies, not magazine covers. It was starving for meaning, for truth, for peace. And that's where real transformation begins, when you step back from the illusion and ask, who am I really? What do I believe? What do I stand for? Those questions take courage. It's easy to live a life that's curated, filtered, praised by millions. It's much harder to stop and say, this isn't me anymore. But when you do, when you have the courage to stop performing and start listening to your soul, you ignite a power within that no one can take away. That's the power that led Angelina to Islam. Not because someone forced her, not because it was popular, but because her soul recognized the truth. And make no mistake, it wasn't a step backward. It was a leap forward into alignment, into wholeness, into the kind of transformation that doesn't just change how people see you. It changes how you see yourself. That's when you know you're no longer acting, you're living, and that kind of living, that kind of truth, that's what the human soul was created for. Islam didn't change Angelina Jolie. It awakened her to who she truly was. There's a myth out there that when you embrace Islam, you lose your identity. You become someone else, like you're erasing your past. But let me tell you the truth. Islam isn't about erasing you, it's about awakening you. It's not about replacing your essence. It's about purifying it, elevating it, revealing the best of who you already are. And that's what happened to Angelina. She didn't become someone new when she embraced Islam. She became someone real. All the humanitarian work she had been doing for years, that was the fitra, the natural disposition, pulling her toward truth even before she had the words for it. The compassion she had for the oppressed, the courage she showed in standing up for the voiceless, the way she constantly challenged the system from within. That wasn't an act. That was her soul crying out for alignment. And Islam brought her into full alignment. You see, we all have a fitra, that natural connection to our Creator. It's in every one of us. But life, culture, trauma, ego, they build layers over it, they bury it. And the journey of faith is not about putting something on you. It's about peeling those layers off. It's about revealing who you really are beneath the fear, the fame, the false identities. That's what Islam did for Angelina. It didn't clip her wings. It taught her how to fly with purpose. Now look at her. She's more grounded, more intentional, more powerful than ever. Not because of public approval, but because of divine connection. She's not operating on the world's terms anymore. She's operating on God's terms. And that's a different level of power. That's the kind of power that doesn't need a stage, that doesn't need applause. That stands tall even when the world misunderstands. Because when you awaken to your real identity, as a servant of the Most Merciful, as someone created with purpose, as someone whose worth doesn't fluctuate with likes or headlines, you become unshakable. And that's what happened with Angelina. She's not reinventing herself, she's rediscovering herself, and that's what all of us are called to do. Not to become something we're not, but to return to who we've always been, deep down, before the world told us who we should be. Power, peace, and purpose don't come from fame. They come from faith. We've been sold a lie that success is about being known, about being seen, about being envied. And for a while, Angelina had all of it. She had the cameras flashing, the red carpets, the interviews, the awards. But here's what they don't tell you about fame. It's loud on the outside and empty on the inside. It's a performance trap. It keeps you chasing the next thing, the next role, the next high. And even when you get it, you're still asking, why don't I feel fulfilled? That's because power, real power, doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. Peace doesn't come from applause. It comes from connection to something bigger than you. Purpose doesn't come from your resume, it comes from your reason, your divine reason for being here, and faith. Faith is the key to all of it. Not religion as a label, but faith as a lifestyle, faith as surrender, faith as submission to the one who created you and knows you better than you know yourself. Angelina discovered that truth. She saw that the world couldn't give her what her soul was starving for. That's why she turned inward. That's why she turned upward. That's why she chose Islam, because in Islam she found clarity, she found answers, she found structure, she found surrender, not weakness, but empowered surrender. The kind that lets you stop pretending you're in control and finally rest in the one who is in control. Now she doesn't need to chase power, she walks in it. She doesn't need to search for peace, it flows through her. And purpose, she wakes up with it every day, because when you live for something greater than yourself, you don't just survive, you thrive. That's what Islam gave her. That's what faith unlocks. It's not about being religious. It's about being aligned. And when your power, peace, and purpose are anchored in the eternal, you become untouchable by the temporary. The moment you surrender to truth is the moment you unlock unstoppable inner strength. Think about it. How many people are out there fighting truth every single day? Fighting that little voice inside that keeps telling them this isn't right. Fighting their conscience, fighting their fitra. Why? Because they're afraid of what surrender means. They think surrender is weakness. But let me tell you something powerful. Surrender is strength. It takes more courage to say, I was wrong, than to keep pretending you're right. It takes more strength to kneel in prayer than to stand in pride. It takes more power to admit you need guidance than to fake your way through life. Angelina Jolie reached a point where she said, no more pretending, no more performance, I'm ready for truth. And when she surrendered, a floodgate opened inside her. She became more powerful, not less. She became stronger, not weaker. Because when you're aligned with truth, you're no longer afraid. You don't fear judgment because you're not living for people anymore. You don't fear loss because you've already gained the only thing that matters. You don't fear failure because you know your worth isn't tied to outcomes. It's anchored in the divine. That's inner strength. That's unshakable confidence, and it only comes through surrender. The moment you bow your head in prayer, the moment you admit you need your Creator, you activate a power source that this world can't touch. That's what Angelina tapped into. She found the kind of strength that doesn't fade with age, that doesn't shrink under pressure, that doesn't disappear when the spotlight is gone, because it's not from this world. It's from the one who made the world. And if you want that kind of strength, if you want to stop faking and start living, you have to be willing to surrender too. Not surrender to weakness, but surrender to truth. Because truth doesn't enslave you, it frees you. When someone like Angelina Jolie chooses Islam, it sends a shockwave across the world. Because truth is louder than fame. We live in a world obsessed with celebrity culture. People worship status, fame, and image. So when a global icon like Angelina Jolie makes a personal, spiritual, and deeply meaningful decision like accepting Islam, it doesn't just make headlines. It shakes the system. It challenges assumptions, it rattles the narrative because it forces people to ask, why? Why would a woman who had it all, wealth, power, beauty, influence, walk toward a religion that the media often misrepresents? Why would someone who could have coasted through life with the world at her feet choose a path of humility, modesty, discipline, and submission? Because truth is undeniable. It cuts through the noise. It silences the critics. It transcends propaganda. And when someone like Angelina chooses it, the world can't look away. Not because of her fame, but because of what her choice represents. It represents courage, awakening, clarity, a hunger for something deeper than material success. And that scares people. It scares systems. Because if someone that's successful is seeking something beyond the world, what does that say about the rest of us? It forces us to confront our own emptiness, our own disconnection, our own soul's whispers. Angelina Jolie's decision to embrace Islam isn't a publicity stunt. It's a soul statement. It's a reminder that no matter how high you climb in this world, if you don't have faith, you're still incomplete. But when you find faith, when you find truth, when you find Islam, you find everything, and here's what's even more powerful. She didn't just find it, she lives it, quietly, humbly, purposefully, and that's what makes it real. That's what makes it impossible to ignore. Because when truth walks into a room, even the loudest lies fall silent, and the world listens and the world changes, one awakened soul at a time. Thank you.